Story 1. The Scarlet Envelope. George never got sick. Well, almost never. He was well into his 30s and had been working an office job for almost 7 years now. It was a standard 8 to 5 job, and he found comfort in the monotony of it. This particular Tuesday, however, George woke up from stomach pains and a massive headache. He got out of bed, and as soon as he stood up, a wave of nausea washed over him, and he rushed to the bathroom, violently vomiting. There was no doubt about it. The man who almost never got sick was definitely going to have to call into work and let them know he wasn't going to make it. He did just that and flopped back onto his bed. George was a lonely man, and he had the apartment all to himself. Not that he was using anything but the bed at the moment. He closed his eyes and slept for what seemed like days, but had actually only been for several hours. He woke up feeling refreshed, and thankfully his nausea and headache were gone. There was a feeling of dread, depression, and hopelessness, and he shook his head thinking it was just his sick state, but the feelings didn't disappear. He slowly got out of bed, no nausea attacking him this time. The despair increased as he got closer to the bathroom to relieve the pressure on his bladder. He couldn't shake off the feeling that something was terribly wrong, something was out of place. He quickly finished his business and turned to head back to his bed, hoping that he just needed some more rest. That's when he saw her, an old woman with tattered clothes, gray wisps of hair and patches, a cloak of some dead animal draped around her shoulders, and long, slender fingers walked ever so slowly up the sidewalk of the cul-de-sac his small house was in. He shivered involuntarily. The woman was very out of place in the upscale neighborhood, and there was something unnerving about her. He watched as the woman passed by his house and stopped in front of the house right next to his. She walked over to his neighbor's mailbox and reached inside her cloak. A red envelope was produced, and she placed it inside the mailbox. Suddenly she turned her head and looked right at him. George jerked back and leaned against the wall out of sight. He counted to 5 and then leaned to take a peek out of the window. The woman was gone. Now, at this moment, George was thinking that he was more sick than he had previously thought. He quickly rushed back to bed and fell asleep, not even realizing that the feeling of dread was gone. The next day, George was feeling much better and had completely forgotten about the old woman from yesterday. He went to work like he always did, and when the day was done, he headed home. As he pulled into the cul-de-sac, he could see that something was going on. There were quite a few police cars surrounding the house next to his, and he slowly pulled into his driveway, wondering what was going on. He was met by a police officer at his front door. "Sir, I need to ask you a few questions about the Chavez family." "Oh, yes, of course." George furrowed his brow. Something had happened. He wondered if they were okay. "Sir, can you tell me how many family members the Chavez family have?" "Mother, father, and 2 boys, so that makes for total." "Thank you. And what were you doing at around 12 p.m. today?" "I was at work. Do you have any way to validate that?" George gave the officer his boss's number, and after a few minutes of talking on the phone, he thanked George for his time and turned to go. "Wait, what happened? Are they okay?" "Sir, the Chavez family was murdered today." George's mouth gaped open in shock. "Murdered? That was crazy." His neighborhood had always been a pleasant out of the way one where nothing happened. As he was laying in bed about to go to sleep, he suddenly remembered the old woman and the red envelope. He shook his head. There was no way there was any kind of connection to the murder. He didn't sleep well that night. The next day, he went to work like normal and tried to forget about the odd woman and the murder of his next-door neighbors. He got home and, as per his usual habit, he went right away to his mailbox to get his mail. He lowered the cover and almost fell down in surprise. There was only one thing in his mailbox, and it was a small red envelope. It had no return address and no stamp. It was just addressed to him in scratchy red ink. He grabbed it and rushed into the house. He was going to burn the envelope. He opened the cupboard where he kept his matches, but they weren't there. He cursed at himself and rummaged through his drawers and cupboards, desperately trying to find matches or a lighter hiding. Somewhere he felt it again, that feeling of absolute despair. It weighed down on him, and he clutched the counter for support. Footsteps sounded on the floor behind him. He hadn't heard the door open. He turned around quickly and saw the same old woman from before standing before him. As soon as his eyes fell on her, the feeling of despair increased tenfold, and he slowly slid to the floor. He couldn't even stand. It was like the energy was being sucked out of him. He watched as the woman stepped closer and closer to him, her footsteps unnaturally loud. The last thing he remembered was a grin on the woman's face, the red envelope still clutched tightly in his hand. Story 2. The Man in the Window. Things had been tough for my mom and I ever since my dad left us 2 years ago. At least I was old enough to get myself to and from school, and I knew my way around a microwave. But I wasn't old enough to get a job, and the bills were piling up. My mom decided to get a second job, a night job, maybe part-time, and not something to brag about, but it would keep our heads above water. I remember the first night like it was yesterday, my mom apologizing up and down for having to leave me alone. I told her I'd be fine, and honestly, I was pretty excited. She wouldn't be home until late, and that meant I could stay up late. There was a monster movie marathon on, so who would complain? It was just around 9:30, and I was right in the thick of some Japanese gore fest when I swore I heard something outside. Maybe it was my mind playing tricks on me. Maybe the movie got to me. Either way, I had to check it out. I hesitantly peered out of the living room window, looking to the left, then the right, and nothing. Then I noticed directly across the way a man standing in his window, just staring. I couldn't really tell what he was staring at, but it freaked me out anyway. I stood at the window for at least a minute, as long as my heart could bear it, and he didn't move. That was it for me that night. I was done with the monster flicks, done with the freaky dude in the window, and tried to fall asleep. The next morning I told my mom about the man. First, she was upset I was up so late, and then she asked if I'd been watching scary movies. Needless to say, I got that it was all in my imagination thing, and that was that. That night, after my mom left, I didn't feel comfortable alone. It was like that feeling of someone watching you, and just after 9 again I swear I heard something. It was just like the last day, except there was no horror movie marathon. Against what my brain was screaming at me, I pulled myself again to the window. There he was, the man just staring out of his window. This time I darted away as quick as I could and ran to my room. It was so weird. It got the hair on my neck standing on end. The next morning I told my mom, but she just brushed it off. saying he was probably just a nervous old man and it had nothing to do with me. I wasn't so sure, but what could I do? My mom left for work that night, even though I begged her to stay. I tried to take my mind off the man. I watched TV. I played music. I even did all my homework. But still I wondered if he was out there staring from his window at me or God knows what. My curiosity got the better of me, and I made my way to the window. My fear was realized in that moment because there he was, the man in the window, just staring. I tried to keep my presence a secret and see just how long he would stand there. My heart felt like it was going to leap out of my chest, but I stayed there at the window and some sort of weird staring contest. Then it happened. He moved away from the window, and I breathed a sigh of relief. My mom was right. I was worried about nothing. Suddenly, his front door opened, and my comfort changed to dread in an instant. I watched from my window, trying my best not to be seen, watching him walk down his driveway, then across the street, then up my driveway. I choked in fear and ran for the telephone. I dialed 911 and waited, my heart jackhammering a million miles an hour. Finally, an answer. I explained to the lady that I thought someone was trying to break in my house, and she said help would be on the way and asked for my address. I managed to get out the first 3 numbers when I was grabbed from behind. I dropped the phone and felt these dirty, greasy hands wrap themselves around me. I screamed as loud as I could and shook myself, trying to break free, but I was lifted from the ground. I could feel the hot breeze on my neck, smell the stale, rotten stench of my attacker. I couldn't help but start crying, screaming my lungs out for my mom, for anyone, for help. Then there was a thud and I was falling with the man towards the floor. We hit and his grip loosened. I rolled away and scrambled behind the couch. Then I heard a voice say, "It's okay, you're safe now." I looked up, shaking and bewildered. There were 2 men, one on the floor, who wasn't moving, and another standing there with a baseball bat. "You're okay," he said again. "I'm your neighbor from across the way." My jaw dropped in confusion. "I've noticed a strange man lurking around your house every night for the last few days, and was concerned you might be in danger. I noticed your mom leaving and knew you were here all by yourself." The police arrived shortly afterwards, and between our 2 stories, the mysterious assailant was taken into custody. I thanked my neighbor as much as I could, and from that day I always felt safer when I looked outside and saw the man in the window across from me. Story 3. Dear David, so my grandfather recently died. Not unexpectedly, might I add. At 81, he had a good run. Anyway, my mom and I had to go to his house and grab anything we wanted to keep before the cleaning crew came in to clear it out. During the process of searching through his bedroom, I came across his box of military stuff, most of which belonged to his father, my great-grandfather, who had died in the Second World War. I had fond memories of this box. My granddad would tell me stories about the photos and letters inside. How much was truth I can't say because he wasn't in the war. Nevertheless, it kept me entertained as a young kid. As I began to look through the box, the memories came flooding back, every letter and trinket reminding me of his story, until I came to one letter, postmarked October 1944. It appeared to be another letter from my great-grandfather to a man named David, who I believe might have been his brother. But unlike the other letters describing the war and conditions, this was different. As I read it, I realized my granddad had never shown me this letter. I'm still unsure what to make of it. The letter is as follows. Dear David, it's been almost 3 weeks since my two friends Howard and Johnson went missing, and I can't keep this to myself any longer. Someone needs to know the details in case something happens to me. Normally, I would just blame the Krots, as they are the cause of most of my missing soldiers. However, this is different. It started around a month ago, when my men started reporting finding these black leather-bound diaries while out on patrol. Of course, as we are occupying a town, it's not uncommon finding things like these around. However, these diaries were odd. The diaries contained names of my soldiers scrawled on the inside cover, no other writing, just the name, and then after a certain date the pages seemed to have been ripped out. Putting it down to the enemy playing mind games, I ignored the reports, thinking that maybe they were just writing common names in them to unnerve us. I remember hearing from HQ they had used mind games before, like hiding soldiers' helmets and pieces of glass to reflect light in windows and woods to look like snipers. However, what set these diaries apart was that over the next few days, they started to appear around the city. Now I know my lookouts are tired and sometimes half-drunk, but surely even they would notice someone getting that close. The other thing is, no matter how many of these things we collected, burnt, destroy, they would appear back the next morning. I don't know who put them there or with what intention, but there they were, and they were having an effect on some of my troops. Many, including my friend Captain Howard, who after finding a diary with his name in it had claimed to hear whispers when no one was around. Howard was also plagued with dreams where he was lost in a wasteland, and a voice on his radio would recite the time and date of his death over and over until he would wake in a cold sweat. He never told me the date or time, but on the 22nd of August he went on routine patrol and never returned. His good friend, Captain Johnson, who he had known since childhood, was naturally distraught. The loss of his friend hit him hard. I had to abandon the search after 5 days, and he became very angry. At this point, he must have felt the only thing to do was continue the search himself, as he was seen leaving the city the same day with a rifle and standard issue kit. 3 days later, around dusk, a lookout spotted a figure walking out of the thick fog that had come down during the day. He had returned, but something was different. His eyes were vacant. He had pale skin. He had none of the kit. He left with, apart from the ripped and blood-stained fatigues, whose blood remained a mystery as he had no visible injuries, and wouldn't speak. He just followed me, like a small child. He refused food and water. I say refused. It was as if it was foreign to him, like he'd forgotten what to do with it. Over the next 24 hours, he did strange things. He broke every mirror and medical area he was kept in and drew all the curtains, preferring to sit in the dark. I insisted to men watch over him. A couple of days later, I awoke to one of my men banging on my door around 5 a.m. Sir, there's been an incident, he said. I arrived the medical area around 5:15 a.m. A crowd had gathered around the house that was our makeshift medical area, all staring at the blood still dipping from blown-out main window. I walked inside through the recently broken door. Inside it looked as though someone redecorated using machine guns and body parts. There had been a fight. Bullet casings littered the floor, as did the remains of my men. He was nowhere to be found. Had he escaped the fight? Was he taken away? All I know for sure is the day after he disappeared, so did the Derrys and the fog. Then one morning, after no patrol finding a diary for just over 2 weeks, I was presented with one found on patrol that morning. I could tell from the patrolman's expression before I even opening it, and there it was smeared in black ink on the inside cover. I quickly flicked to the back. The last page was October 15th. Today is October 14th. Charles, story 4. Death is near. Sometimes as adults we remember the days when we used to go out and have adventures. More than going out to eat at 3 in the morning. More than sneaking into our lover's bedroom afterwards against her parents. Well, but the cave exploring adventures, trespassing near that little cottage in the middle of the woods. Little things that horrified us at the time. But when we look back on them, we realize that it was quite possibly our imaginations that were toying with us, rather than the spirits of the dead. Although there were other times where we think back, our heart rate quickens, we begin to sweat. We think about the times where maybe we weren't in any danger, that something tells us that death was watching from afar, just keeping his watchful eye on us, waiting for the day ere he would come to take us away. The day he came to take me away, after he tore my soul away from my body with his dull scythe, he asked me, "Do you remember me? Do you remember the times I was there watching over you?" And I would say, "I think so, sir." My best friend and I walked down the road. It was around 3 in the morning. I wasn't prepared for this. I never wore shorts, but that night I was, for some reason. It was cold out, the middle of winter, so dark that I couldn't see the ground. I could only hear the crunch of the gravel beneath my shoes. In the distance I could see the graveyard, the light of the moon reflecting off the fog like an eerie scene from a movie. It looked pretty cliché, but it was still a bit spooky. My nose began to run, and I sniffled. We said nothing as we got closer to the graveyard. He had awoken me in the dead of night. "Hey, you want to go for a walk? Dude, it's 2 in the morning. Won't your parents be pissed?" "Nah, man, let's just go." He grabbed something off the table and put it in his jacket pocket. Earlier that day, he had found out that the woman he loved had been sleeping with a close friend of his, and he had been silent for the remainder of the evening. This was his first time speaking in hours. I decided that letting him go out by himself in the dead of night like this would be a bad idea, so I went with him. No coat, just a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. We entered the foggy graveyard. He walked quickly, and I tried to keep up. Why were we here? Well, honestly, the graveyard was very close to his home. We came here often. It was a nice place during the day. Climbing trees, making fun of people's names, having bicycle races through the graves. My friend walked to a pair of graves. He still hadn't said anything. Suddenly, I felt a chill run up my spine. I hurried to see what he was looking at. He pulled the object from his coat pocket and pointed it at the grave. It was a large cleaver. The light from the moon reflected off the sharp edge of the blade, and it shone upon the graves. It was the name of his lover and the man she was having the affair with. They shared the same last name. My friend went up and stood upon both of their graves. I didn't like this, but I decided not to say anything. Then we heard a voice. "What are you doing, young man?" said an old woman who had somehow snuck up behind us. We both said nothing. "How would you like it if someone stood upon your graves?" "I wouldn't care," said my friend. The old lady shrugged and walked away. I sniffled again. "Hey, man, can we go home?" I asked desperately. He held the cleaver in his hand tightly and turned toward me. His eyes were missing and blood poured down his cheeks from where they once were. He walked towards me and I started to step away. I said, "Let's get out of here," I said to him, too afraid to run. He came toward me. Then he rushed forward. I put my hands up to try and block him, but it was too late. I felt my skull being cleaved in half. I woke up. I could tell I was underground, unable to move, unable to breathe, my arms and legs bound at my sides. Then I could hear it. Somebody was yelling. They were in terrible pain. It was then that I realized I was lying in a coffin. Then I heard loud footsteps from above as the screaming got louder and louder, the pounding, the horrible pounding. It was like someone was trying to stomp on my head. Then I woke up. My friend was there. We were back in the graveyard. Instead of a cleaver, he carried a flashlight. It shone upon the graves. These ones had the names of random people on them. He turned toward me. "I think I am ready to go." Then suddenly he threw the flashlight. I didn't see where it landed, and I wasn't about to venture out amongst the graves. We started to leave the graveyard. I turned around one final time. I saw the light from the flashlight. It shone upon the woman from earlier. Half of her face was gone. Nothing but her bone-white skull and eyeball remained on that side. The other side was completely normal. She waved at me, smiling with her crooked teeth. I didn't wave back. I realized now that it was death. Just checking to make sure I was okay. Death is always near. Just in case. Story 5. Oh, you know, just another nightmare. You stumble out of your nightmare, your leg cramps, your room is dark and void of any light except the soft red glow of your clock. 3:30 in the morning. Thought you were going to get a good night's sleep. Not now. You have to get ready for work at 6. Perfect. What's to blame for your nightmare this time, though? Might it be staying up into the wee hours of the morning yesterday trying to woo her over Facebook? Yeah, that's it. Your own mind is simply releasing your anger and confusion in your dreams. Or maybe it's just staying up until midnight watching Adult Swim. You only got around 6 hours of sleep the night before. It could just be your sleep-deprived brain not knowing what the hell is going on. Hey, fuck it. It's a nightmare. Why are you trying to find reason in it? You're just going to try and salvage the little time you have to sleep. Though, as you close your eyes, you're not thinking about how you're going to try to sway her next time, or the excuse you're going to give your boss. You're only thinking about the nightmare, a long, dark alley. Your watch isn't on you, but you guess it's midnight. It's not entirely obvious where you are, but you know it's not anywhere near your house. As you're looking around to get your surroundings, you see a figure at the end of this alley. What looks like a woman. An elegant woman in a red cocktail dress with long blonde hair. You can barely see her face. Wait, is that hell? It is. It's her. You try calling out to her, hey, but she doesn't seem to hear. She starts to walk away, and you start to run. You keep yelling, "Jill, hey." But it soon becomes apparent that no noise is escaping your mouth. At this point, you realize you never noticed any noise since the dream started. Anything you yelled was just a thought. You reach the end of the alley, that she's already gone. You look around the corners, that you can't find any trace of her. Maybe you should just go back. As you turned, you see her at the other end. You can't see her face at all now, and her dress seems darker this time you book it. You get about halfway down when you notice the alley is longer than you remember it being. Not only that, but with each step, it seems to get longer. Everything is stretching with it. Any doors or trash cans in the alley expand, and even you seem to. You try to take longer strides, but your muscles tense up, making it even harder to run. All this time, she's not moving. Your muscles finally stop moving at all, and you fall down. That's when you hear it, this roar. Not a simple roar either. 15 different animals are all growling, roaring, some even screaming in pain. It's loud, too. You have to get up fast. Your muscles are weak, but slowly you get the strength back to rise. You look around, but can't find anything. What the fuck was that? It gets louder and louder. You keep looking around, but nothing's there. It grows closer. Fuck it, it doesn't matter that you can't see it. You run, sprint. Your muscles ache, but you need to get out of there. It doesn't seem like a dream anymore. Even if it is, you're not ready to die in a dream in a fucking back alley. Your legs give out from under you, but you get up and keep sprinting. As fast as you go, the exit doesn't seem any closer, and the growl just gets closer. And then it stops, abrupt, your legs quiver, and you give in, collapsing on the floor. Whatever was after you is gone. As you try to figure out what to do now, you hear a series of clicks behind you. Click, dash, click, dash, click, dash, click. Click, dash, click, dash, click, dash, click. Great, the growl's gone. But that goddamn metronome replaced it. You turn around to find out what's causing it, only to find it staring into your face, a smooth, gray-faced. Its eyes. No, those aren't eyes. They're red voids. You try to find yourself in them, but there's no reflection, just red swirls, with even darker red tornadoes. There's more to its eyes, though, faces twisted, demonic, full of terror and dread. Their contortions don't even seem humanly possible. You start to crawl backwards, and you get a fuller glimpse of this monster. It's about the size of a Jeep, with claws the size of Jeep tires. Its neck is long, twisting every which way, reaching the point where you once were. You keep crawling, trying to find some sort of sense in this creature, but you find nothing familiar in it. Its voice suddenly widened, and it reveals a mouth, a gaping black expanse, with multiple layers of sharp, grimy teeth stained with blood. You're going to be the next to join those faces. You're not ready. You get up, trying to run, but it gets your left leg a long, deep cut. That's when you woke up. Well, I guess I'm going to bed at 10 now. You think. You start to pull the covers up, but you feel something. It's wet and cold down near your legs. Did you piss yourself out of fear? You pull the covers back, and realize it's not piss. Piss doesn't smell like this. It's hard to figure out in this darkness. As you swing yourself out of bed, your leg sears in pain. Is that left over from the cramp? Dreams can do that. Integrate parts of reality into a dream. You hobble over to the lamp to turn it on. A bright light floods the room. As your eyes adjust, you see the cut. It's long and deep and fresh. Story 6. The Cracked Emerald, Diana. Will you marry me? Howard opened the small black box. Inside was a ring encompassing a small emerald gem. If you looked close enough at it, you could see a small crack down the middle. At first, Diana looked as if she was going to be sick, though that may have been a side effect of the excessive champagne. H. Howard. she stuttered. Her eyes widened and began to well up. Howard determined whether they were tears of joy or tears of. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes," a little louder. "Yes," she screamed. "Of course I'll marry you." They embraced each other, Diana seizing her husband to be so hard that the ring slipped from its box. It hit the restaurant floor and rolled across the room, and then it was picked up. Howard, realizing the ring had escaped from its box, arose from his chair. He saw the old woman and approached her, though he thought twice about doing so. The old woman's face was hidden beneath a black shawl. The hand that was holding the ring was withered and gray. She stood up, her face still a shadowy mass, and spoke 5 words, her voice weak and trembling. "You must change the ring." She held out her shaking hand. Howard took the ring. He looked down at it. "Excuse me." He looked up, but the old woman had gone. She had had only one thing to say. Howard soon forgot about her. The ring was fine. Diana loved it. He was sure the next morning. Howard's alarm sounded at 6:30. He awoke smiling. Last night had been the happiest of his life. He turned to Diana. Only her hand was visible from under the quilt. Immediately, he thought something tragic had happened. He swept up her hand and let out a sigh of relief, a pulse. He was just being paranoid. Howard kissed his fiance's hand and left the bed. Howard worked for a modeling agency. He himself wasn't a model, of course. He only took the photographs, and he was very good at his job. He had a knack for capturing young people on screen. Howard looked in the mirror. He felt a changed man. He would be married soon, committed. It seemed like the right way to live your life. Meet someone and give your life to them, metaphorically, of course. He quickly breakfasted and headed out to the car. Later, he would regret not giving a proper goodbye to his wife-to-be. Diana yawned. She too felt different, but for the better or for the worse. It took her a long time to awaken, and even after that, her eyesight was unclear. She arose with great struggle, her back aching. She tried to shake it off, but only gave herself a headache. She had some painkillers in the bathroom somewhere. Once in the bathroom, she rushed straight to the medicine cupboard, not even looking in the mirror, the way she always did in the morning. Where were they? Her headache seemed to getting worse by the minute, and so did her eyesight. After she had emptied the entire cupboard, she found what she looking for. Diana took the tablets and swallowed them. She arose to the sink, her back cracking unpleasantly, and washed her face. That seemed to clear up her eyesight a little. Standing up fully, she met her reflection in the rectangular mirror. Diana screamed in terror. One of the most important things in life was to enjoy your work, and Howard did, very much so. He entered his car with a smile on his face. His life was perfect. He could wake up looking forward to his day. Every day for the rest of his life. He had finally met the perfect woman, and he would love her no matter what. Well, that's what he thought. He rustled around his pocket for the house key. Once he found it, he slid into the keyhole and turned. There was click, and the door opened. "Honey, I'm home." There was no reply. "Honey." He skimmed the living room, the kitchen, and the downstairs toilet. The ground floor was deserted. He ascended the stairs at light speed. What if something had happened? He wouldn't be able to bear it. His life had just took a turn for the better. It wasn't going to be ruined now. He burst through the bedroom door. There was Diana under the covers. "Oh, you gave me such a fright." He approached her. "Honey." The quilt quivered. Come on, now that's enough joking around. Any moment now, she was going to jump out screaming boo, and he would sweep her up and kiss her. Any moment now, you're scaring me now, Diana. He pulled the covers away from her, immediately regretting it. There sat an old woman, sobbing into her withered hands. On the ring finger of her left hand was a ring with a cracked emerald gem. Diana, don't look at me, she said, her voice identical to one belonging to a woman from the restaurant. Howard would have been sick, but he was paralyzed from head to toe. For a minute, a young man stood staring at the woman he used to know, and then, slowly, he backed away from her, spoke the words, "I'm sorry," and left the woman he loved, alone and dying. Asterisk. She had one chance left. The hooded woman entered She picked it up. He approached, and then she spoke. "You must change the ring." He looked down at the cracked emerald, and she faded into nothingness. Story 7. Hello, the doorbell rings, and you get up from where you sat staring stonily into space. You already know who is at your door and why he is there. You open it, nodding numbly to the man. You make a note in your head that the man looks sneaky, but you assume that must be because he's a lawyer. You show him into your living room, dreading what is to come. The man hands you a CD he produces from his briefcase and sets what looks like a birdcage on your coffee table. You cannot see what is inside the cage, as it is covered in a blanket of embroidered silk. The man sits as you put the disc into your stereo and press play. You hear the sound of stressed breathing from the speakers as you take your seat. The lawyer hasn't said a word, but you know the breathing to be that of your late friend, the last breaths of your friend. You can hear something in the background, behind your friend's heavy breaths, as if someone or something was scratching at a door. You wonder if you're hearing things, as the sound is barely audible in the recording. You look up as you hear her voice, as if she was in the room with you, as if she was alive. The date is September the 1st of 2008. Her voice is shaky. Every word she speaks is saturated with fear. This is my last will and testament. Now, I don't have much time. They're almost here, so I'll dispense the formalities and get on with what I have to say. This is the last day of my life, as you have probably already figured out. This began with the death of my uncle. I had never known him very well, only a few times at family reunions and Christmas parties. But he had left me something on his will. I sat awkwardly through the reading of the document until at last my name was called. Of the cage, what was inside the box is of no consequence, but underneath the blanket, I warn you, do not take the blanket off until this recording has ended, is an old bird cage. Inside of this bird cage is a parrot. I was indeed surprised, but there were more shocks to come. When I lifted the blanket, the bird's eyes were immediately fixed on me. Its beady eyes shone wickedly upon seeing a new face, and it said plainly in a squawky voice, "Hello." I stared back at it, and it repeated itself, "Hello." I dismissed it as a cute trick my uncle had taught it. I was very wrong. The next day, when I took the blanket off of the cage, I was not greeted with a hello. No. On the second day, the bird didn't talk at all. What it did do was breathe loudly, as if it was hyperventilating, or at least copying someone who was terrified. On the third day, the bird did not speak, but made the sound of a grown man crying. I was very disturbed and covered the cage for the remainder of the day. The fourth day, in a voice not unlike my recently departed uncle's, the bird cried, "Oh God, oh God." I thought the bird had learned it from listening to the television, and I resolved to never let it hear the television again. I didn't turn on the TV all that day, but on the 5th day, when I uncovered the cage, the bird screamed. Not a normal scream, mind you, and it was nothing I had ever had turned on the television. It was the sound of a man screaming in terror and pain. It was, I know now, the scream my uncle gave when he was killed when the bird screams again. It will be my scream as they tear me apart. For even now the bird is listening to me. It stares at me coldly where I've barricaded myself in the kitchen. As your life depends on it. Do not yet uncover the cage. The 6th day yesterday, when I hesitantly uncovered the cage, the bird was quiet. Perhaps 10 minutes later it cocked its head to the side, as if it had heard something I could not. "They're coming." It whispered, "They're coming," over and over again. He repeated in a haunting voice, "They're coming. Today is the 7th day, and they are here." Just as the bird said, I can hear them scratching at the door and crawling in the walls. The bird is waiting to record how I die, I swear. If it called he grin, it would have been grinning from the moment I uncovered its cage. The noises are getting louder. They'll get in soon. So I'm saying goodbye now. Take care of the bird. I couldn't think of anyone else to give it to. I'm sorry. You must take care of him till they come for you. You have 7 days. The track ended suddenly, and you look around you startled. You must have been entranced by the disc, for the lawyer was gone. You hadn't noticed him leave. You stare at the covered cage on the coffee table and wonder if you had just heard on the CD was real or just some elaborate hoax. A rustling comes from underneath the embroidered silk. Your curiosity begs you to see what's in the cage. You slowly raise up the blanket. Hello. Bonus stories. Story 1. We lie. Adam entered the living room and sat down with a glass of red wine, careful not to spill. He needed to have another talk with his wife. Things could get difficult. The wine helped him keep a level head. "Clara." "Yes, dear?" "I'm glad you're here. We have to talk." "Okay," she said. "About." "Can you help me to understand why you did it? Why you hurt me like that?" Clara was silent for a long while. Adam took a sip from the glass, remaining patient. "I was hurting too, and confused. Please forgive me. It's hard, Clara, I know, but I don't want to talk about it now." Adam stood up, paced around the room a few times, and sat back down. "Well, are you happy? Can you at least tell me that much?" "Yes, so long as you're with me. I won't leave you, Adam. You have to know that." "I know, and I love you, Clara." "I love you too." There was another long pause. "Do you know I sometimes watch you while you sleep?" "Really?" Adam idly swirled the dark liquid, observing how the glass refracted the room's light. "I've been having bad dreams lately, so just knowing someone's there watching over me really helps." "Thank you, honey. I have to leave now." "Already?" he asked, surprised. "Hey, I know. You should come with me." His brow furrowed. I can do that." "Sure, you already know how." "How?" he asked, sensing he wouldn't like the answer. "Same as me, silly." The room seemed to dim at the corners, as if its huddled shadows were conspiring to eavesdrop. "What? How could you say that, Clara?" Another pause. "Clara's not here," came the reply. Adam felt his stomach bottom out. "What you mean you're not?" "No, never was. But I did speak to her once." The deceit stung at his eyes. "Oh, yeah. And what did you say? Jump. He shot up from his chair, rubbing his temples. No, no, God damn it. How is this possible? All those things she said. I was talking to Clara. Damn it, I was talking to her. At this point, Tatum was not so much talking with another as he was pleading with himself. But he forced himself to sit back down. The planchette beneath his fingertips raced across the board, spelling out a simple message. We lie. Tears began to splash over random letters, blurring the ornate typeface. But Adam dared not remove his hands as the planchette continued to move. One more thing, he did not respond, so it resumed without a prompt. Those aren't dreams. Adam could recall only fragments of his nightmares. A dark alley, a dripping tunnel, the thrill of darting from shadow to shadow, a scream cut short, hands wrapped tight around something soft and yielding, and the reflection of the moon in a cold river, its black waters rushing at his bare waist. He found his voice again, growling. What do you mean? I borrow you. At this, Adam withdrew his trembling hands and stared at them in disbelief. He choked out a single word. Why? The planchette moved freely now, without need of human touch, and answered with a single word of its own. F. Ewan, Story 2. An open letter to my daughter's killer. An open letter to the killer of Samantha B. If you're somehow able to read this wherever you are now, know that I will find you. No father should have to watch their child lowered into the sacred silence of the earth. I don't know if there is a right age to die, but I do know it isn't 17. Better at birth before eyes had filled with light and I had learned to love so deeply. Better late into old age when life's fleeting joys had been more than tasted. Better not at all, but a world where prayers are answered is a world where they're not needed, a world that isn't ours. All the hours I spent playing on the floor were wasted, all the faces and bad jokes I made to get a smile, all the music I played to inspire a song or the books I read to inspire a dream. All wasted. I thought that was all it took to make me a good parent, but I was wrong. I invested my entire life into this single purpose, but everything I had to give was not enough. I wasn't there when I was needed most, and nothing I have ever done or could ever do can change that. The police found the knife you did it with in the woods where you dropped it. It was a slow death, they told me, but passing out would have avoided most of the pain. I wonder if you regretted it as soon as your blade entered the skin. Did you mean for it to dig so deep? Did you panic when the blood wouldn't stop? Did you call for help or struggle in vain to bandage the wound, or were you too ashamed? I wonder if you planned the kill at all, or whether time was flying too fast and your blood pounding too loud and you didn't know how to make it stop until it was too late. Were you thinking of anyone but yourself when you did it? I don't know what private torment brought you to this point, but taking a life will never cease that pain. The pain is passed from one person to the next, enduring past life, past death, past mortal strengths to bear, until the day long after you're gone, and the next victim sees the sun dawn without light or warmth, and all sounds and colors bleed into an endless gray. And then that sun too will set, passing on your pain once again. You must think that I hate you. I don't think anyone would blame me if I did. I hate that you destroy my family, but I forgive you for everything. You may not believe me, but I promise it's true. It's everything about this world that made you into someone capable of such an act that I will never forgive. I still don't know why you killed yourself, Samantha. If you're somehow able to read this, though, know that I will find you, and somehow, someday, we'll be together again. Story 3. The Lost Passenger. I'm waiting at the bus stop. The rain is falling lightly, and it's just about getting dark. I missed the last bus, and now I'm tired and hungry, longing to be in my warm bed with a hot drink. I'm so busy daydreaming that I didn't notice the little old lady stood next to me. I never saw her arrive, which was odd as I was. Sure, I was all alone a moment ago. The hood is up on her filthy raincoat, her posture hunched with her back to me, and clutched in her bony hand hangs a large red handbag. The street has gotten real quiet. The rain is coming down a little heavier now, and the street lamps flicker on. I'm impatiently glancing up and down the dark, deserted road for a sign of the bus when I notice something that alarms me. The stranger hasn't any feet. Instead, there were just 2 stumps wrapped in blooded bandages. At the disturbing sight of this, I became nauseous and unsettled. What was she doing walking on them in that terrible state? She had no crutches for support either. It was baffling. I tried hard not to stare and studied the timetable on the bus shelter wall instead. When she suddenly spoke, lost them on this very road I did. It was a hollow, croaking sound she made when she talked. Were you in an accident? I asked nervously. The bastard crushed him good, she replied bitterly, still with her back to me. I couldn't think of anything else to say. I was dumbfounded. The road was on a bleak stretch of countryside at the edge of town. Not a single car had passed us for some time, and I was feeling anxious and jittery. Where is that bus? I was considering walking to the next stop for the exercise and to be away from this strange lady with no feet when she spoke again. Be a dear and hold my bag. Sure. Is it too heavy? I asked, reaching out to take it from her. It was then she turned to face me. I froze on the spot. A wave of cold terror came over me. Her face. There was no face. No features at all. Just a large gaping cavity. But still she spoke in that hollow voice. Be a dear and hold my bag. Be a dear. Her bloody stumps made a wet, squelching sound as she stepped toward me. I fell backwards and hit the ground hard. I tried to scream, but all that came out was some hideous, animal-like, primal sound. My mind was reeling as she inched closer and closer to me. I couldn't move. I felt bent down by fear, trapped and helpless. She then proceeded to open the bag and reveal its contents. To my disbelieving eyes, look what they took from me, she wailed. Inside I saw what they had taken. Her feet, twisted and mangled, the bones crushed and turned to red splinters, and her face, a torn, disfigured mask of ragged flesh, stared at me from within that blooded sack, and it was screaming at me. Look what they took from me. Story 4. Awakening. You're awoken from a dreamless sleep by a dull thud from the hallway. Your eyes snap open and fix instantly on the door. What made that noise? Breathing hard. Fear beginning to twitch in your mind. You realize with a shiver that you've kicked your duvet off in your sleep. You quickly grab it, pull it around you, and unconsciously begin to tuck it around yourself tightly as you curl up, leaving no part exposed. You become a warm, safe ball, curled leaving only a small gap between the duvet and mattress so you can see out, pillows becoming shields between your head and the wall. You are briefly reminded of your childhood hiding from imaginary boogeymen. But this feels more palpable, more dangerous. Another thud. This time it seems louder, deeper, coming from just outside. Trying to keep calm, you run through all the things it has to be. The pipes in the wall, which have been groaning for weeks now, with ever-increasing frequency and urgency. They were never this deep or this loud. The blind in the bathroom, left to flap by an open window. You double-check all the doors and windows each night. Perhaps it's your parents, returning late and drunk their way on a cruise for another week. Your cat prowling through the house at night. You put it out that evening. Despite all your desperate reassurances, you feel the fear turn to panic, and you pull the duvet tighter around yourself, reducing your field of vision to a thin chink. Another, the loudest yet, just inches from your door. Your churning brain conjures images straight from your childhood nightmares. Masked psychopaths, giant spiders, shape-shifting creatures, amalgamations of bone and gristle, twitching their way across the floor, scrabbling with twisted limbs for the door handle, then scuttling in with a burst of speed, claws grasping for your quivering body. Another, your breathing is hoarse and shallow, now mere gasps in a suddenly dry throat, lungs closing up, stomach churning and roiling, eyes wide and fixed. Your blanket is still tucked vice-like around you, your body pinioned underneath its futile protection. Just inches of cotton between you and whatever is about to burst in, eyes burning, talons gleaming dully to claim its prize. Suddenly, in a flash of realization, you realize what the source of the noises is. The old, falling apart bookcase in the corridor. One of the legs must have given way, and the tilt is tipping books one by one onto the floor. As you listen carefully, you can hear the quiet riffle of the pages as another tumbles to the ground. There ought to be one last thud and, yes, silence once more descends, and with it, a soothing calm. As you sink back into sleep, you glance around the room, still snugly cocooned, seeing the vague shapes becoming defined as your night vision improves. Your desk, chair, and television all emerge out of the murk, imposing good, sane reality on the void of night. Then, just before you shut your eyes, you see something that makes the bottom of your stomach drop away into nothingness. There, on the floor, is your duvet. Your screams are muffled, story 5-7 times. It sounded like footsteps when she was 3, staring after the retreating back of a woman with a once familiar smell. Her young brain snapped at attention. A feeble noise behind her. She had turned then, getting even more tangled in the warm, heavy blanket draped around her slender body. But her round, wet eyes only saw a tall green door. She eyed it curiously, marveling at the vivid color, until it opened, startling the young girl. Warm arms and a sad, gentle smile greeted her, soothing words whispered by her ear. When walking silently through the long, cold halls, eyes wide at the darkness around her, she heard it again, a sound lifting from the deepest haze of her memories. Slow, deliberate steps a ways behind made the tiny hairs on her neck stand. She froze, breath quickening and eyes shut tight. But whatever it was ceased immediately. A rat, she told herself. there was always one of the little animals roaming the orphanage, but still she ran the rest of the way to the security of her blankets, bearing little concern for the other sleeping forms on the crowded bedroom. When her friends mocked her for bringing no one on Parents' Day, she ran away with tears in her eyes, forcing her legs to go as fast as they could. But when the heavy thumps of her boots against the stone floor was replicated by another, she was crying over a whole different reason. Rounding a corner, she hit a warm body, crashing them both to the ground. Fearful eyes met, soft brown ones, a girl from the orphanage that smiled shyly and suggested that maybe she needed better friends. When she skipped school for the 100th time, sharing a dirty mattress with a passed-out girl who had long lost her shy smiles, a needle half thrusted into her arm, she felt more than hear the mild footsteps creeping along, all the others' bodies scatter on the floor, stalking near her bed. But she was too far gone to care. As she stood alone by the sad, gloomy little tombstone of her only friend, whose smile she would never see again, the wind blew an eerie presence from between the graves of the dead. Her friend saying goodbye, she wagered, breaking the laws of nature, to listen to her half-sob, promised to change her ways, mend her life. But even then she could not turn back. When she cushioned her son in her arms, a silly smile plastered on her face as her finger traced gentle patterns on his impossibly soft skin. The tapping resumed somewhere out of sight, stopping just behind her. It was close, each time closer, and even as her heart threatened to leap out of her chest, she simply held the fragile, precious body in her arms tighter. Glaring stubbornly ahead, it sounded like footsteps. When she locked her car, sprang in her step, because finally she got that promotion so long deserved. She heard it walking from behind for the last time, and at the hot, putrid breath hitting her neck and the pale taloned hand gripping her shoulder, she realized it had always been footsteps, and she had run out of time. Story 6. The Willow. I met her by the willow tree, that by itself does stand beside the old dirt road that leads into a long-forgotten land. The road no longer has a name. Its dirt is of the deepest red, that on the days when it does rain, the road appears to have been bled. I have lingered here for so many hours. Sometimes I feel as if I am bound away from the city's concrete towers. I feel as if my soul has been found. There is no sound save a rustling of leaves when the wind does blow, with no sign of people hustling, rushing to get to where they go. I met her there one afternoon, the date I now cannot recall. At first sight my heart did swoon, as raindrops slowly began to fall. She sat reading beneath the tree, leaning against its trunk, so old, seeming completely oblivious of me or the creeping cold. Her beauty was stunning, beyond any I had ever seen. Momentarily I thought of running, just before I heard her scream. Oh, you startled me and gave me quite a fright. Why, whatever are you doing here, as this day gives way to night? My mind went blank at her query, as if its function had simply ceased. My vision went ever so slightly blurry, and I wondered if I'd lose my feet. Just then she gave me a look, a concerned and puzzled frown. She marked, then closed her book, and asked me to please sit down. My name is James, I said, as I extended an open hand. She shook it with a nod of her head, saying only, my name is Anne, shortly thereafter, and did depart to return home within the city walls, and I sat there with a happy heart, listening to the rain slowly fall over the course of the months to follow, were many meetings beneath our tree. My life, which had become so hollow, felt as if it had now been freed. We talked, we laughed, we even cried, once or twice, watching the wind blowing the grass, listening to the rustling leaves. Our love had bloomed and grown so very fast, I could not see the sweeping doom of the impending wintry blast. I came to the willow that fateful day, to embrace my beloved Anne, and underneath the tree did lay a note scrawled in her lovely hand. My dearest John, her note did read, I don't know what words to use. As I read, my heart did bleed, but then became confused. I can no longer meet you here, underneath this ancient tree. Know that I'll always hold you dear, and I've left something you must see. Beneath the note, and on the ground, a scrap of yellowed paper lay. I've wished, since I'd not looked down, to see what she had left that day. I picked up the paper with dismay and understanding dawning in my mind. The words that I did read that day were of the very gravest kind. Local men found dead today. The headline screamed so bold. James McLaren found dead today, out by Lone Forgotten Road. Story 7. Dear Diary, 2 a.m. I can't seem to sleep tonight, and writing has always calmed me down. Today has been quite an odd day. It's been very quiet. Nobody seemed to want to talk today. Nobody seemed to want to smile today. I felt different from them. I felt happy. As for why, I am not sure. I seemed to get happier the more I saw them sad, but that's probably just my mind making things up this late at night. I'm not an evil person. I just want to go to sleep. 3 a.m. I still can't go to sleep. All I can seem to do is think of all of the people I saw today. All I can seem to do is think of all the things I did today. All I can seem to do is think about all of the sadness. As for why, I am not sure. I'm not an evil person. I just want to sleep. 4 a.m. I can't sleep. I'm so tired, but I'm so awake. I wish somebody was here to tuck me in, to keep me safe. My thoughts are wandering so far that I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to find them again. I feel so different. I feel like I might have caused everybody to be sad today. I feel like I might have done something wrong today. I feel like I might have ended some lives today. As for why, I am not sure. I'm not an evil person. I just want to sleep. 5 a.m. I don't want to sleep anymore. I looked in the mirror. I don't want to have to wake up ever again. I looked in the mirror. I'm afraid I may have scared people today. I looked in the mirror. I'm afraid I may have been a monster today. I looked in the mirror, and nothing was different. I looked in the mirror, and nothing was the same. I'm afraid of myself. As for why, I am not sure. I'm not an evil person. I just want to die. 6 a.m. I can't seem to die. I feel like all I can do is write. I feel like all I can do is breath. I feel like all I can do is live. I can't seem to die. What's the point in living? What's the point in sleeping? What's the point in waking? I can't seem to die. As for why, I am not sure. I'm not an evil person. I just want death. 7 a.m. Every word I write seems to give me more life, and I can't help but take it. I can't imagine how I'm living, but the words keep me alive. I can't imagine how I'm happy, but the words give me strength. I can't imagine how you're still reading. It's you that keeps me alive. I can't imagine how you're feeling. Your death brings me life. You can't imagine how I'm feeling. I feel so alive. You can't imagine yourself living. You just want to die. As for why, I am not sure. I'm not an evil person. All I want is to live. All I want is you to die, dear diary. Thank you for reading.